Hey everybody, it's Eric 80s Horrorman here, and welcome to another Top 10 Tuesday. But first, before I get started on it, first off, I'd like to apologize. Is because there was one movie I completely forgot that I bought throughout in the month of October of this year that I forgot to show off in my end of month haul video. Because when you buy so much stuff, you literally just think you have it all, but all of a sudden you forget that one certain item of that particular movie you forgot to show off in your end of month haul video. So the movie I'm talking about that I forgot to show off in my end of month haul video for the month of October from this year is The Changeling. This movie was actually a very fun paranormal ghost movie with George C. Scott in this one, where he plays a music composer who moves into his Victorian house after he loses his wife and daughter in a tragic accident. But as soon as he moves into a house, turns out there's a powerful entity living in that house. But this was actually a very fun movie. I actually enjoyed this one. And I know I like to listen to soundtracks that plays the actual score from the movie, but the music to this film, holy shit. It just ended up giving me chills and ended up making the hair stand up on my arms. So, The Changing, I highly recommend checking this movie out because I ended up watching this one off of YouTube. So, The Changeling, definitely recommend checking it out. Okay, so now let's get on to the top 10 Tuesday. So today, I know I haven't been able to do one for quite some time because I wanted to wait until I made sure I have all 10 movies that I want to do for my next top 10 Tuesday, and sure enough, I do. So today, I'll be doing my top 10 documentaries. So if you like watching documentaries, I hope you like these ones that I'm about to show off in my top 10. First off, at number 10 is Screen Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. When I met Mark Patton at the ScareCon event back in 2016 or 17, which one it was, is that he gave me a poster for his documentary, and he told me that they were playing this documentary from convention to convention, and then when they were done doing it, he was hoping that this would get a DVD release, and I was hoping for it as well, and sure enough, it did. So this one was actually a very good documentary watch about where some of the cast members end up talking about why critics end up considering Nightmare on Elm Street 2 to be like the gayest horror movie of all time ever made. And it turns out Mark Patton wants some answers from the guy who ended up writing the script for that movie. Here, so well, this was actually a very fun documentary to watch. Screen Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street. I definitely recommend checking it out. Next, at number 9, is His Name Was Jason, 30 Years of Friday 13th. This is hosted by special makeup effects artist Tom Savini, and they have like interviews with certain cast members talk about each of the Friday 13th movies. He's it, and how it's still going on today, how people are still talking about it. So this was actually a very fun documentary to watch. We had interviews with certain cast members like Kane Hodder, known for playing Jason, and just talking about how to how big of a fan base this movie has for people that are big fans of the Friday 13th film, the franchise. So his name was Jason. 30 Years of Friday 13th. Definitely recommend checking that out. Next, at number 8, is More Brains, A Return to the Living Dead. Yes, I know this movie says A Return to the Living Dead, but this is a 2-disc edition put up by Scream Factory, as you can tell. First disc is the actual movie of Return of the Living Dead. Second disc right here is where it's got the documentary of More Brains, A Return to the Living Dead, where they have certain cast and crew members talk about what it was like in the process of getting this movie made back in the 80s and how it did at the box office. So More Brains: A Return to the Living Dead. I definitely recommend checking that out. Next at number 7 is a documentary I just recently got last month, and as you saw me show it off in my end of month haul, and that's Phantasm, where you have this fan who ends up taking a video camera with him, and he goes to different conventions in different states, cities, and towns, and have like interviews with certain celebrities like Heather Langenkamp, Tuesday Night, Tom Atkins, and they all talk about how big of a fan base that the fans are for horror movies. So this is actually a fun documentary to watch. I ended up watching this one twice off of YouTube, and I definitely recommend checking it out because every time I watch it, just makes me think back of the ScareCon events I've gone to over the years. So Phantasm, definitely recommend checking it out. Next, at number 6 is Going to Pieces: The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film. This is actually a very fun documentary to watch because this one talks about like how popular the 80s slasher horror movies were back then in the 80s, but then how it started to fall in the mid 90s, like after when Scream came out. So, or there's like interviews with directors like John Carpenter, Wes Craven, and Rob Zombie. And they all talk about how popular the slasher horror movies were back in the 80s, but then how it started to fall in the mid 90s after when Scream came out back in 96. So, Going to Pieces: The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Films, I highly recommend checking this out. If you want to know your history about slasher 80s horror movies, check that out. Next, at number 5, is Halloween 25 Years of Terror. This one is narrated by my good friend PJ Soul. She narrates this documentary. She tells the story of how successful the Halloween franchise was back in the theaters back in the day, and how it did at the box office, and then how there became such a big following for this franchise, and how a convention came about for this franchise. So, for Halloween 25 Years of Terror, I definitely recommend checking this one out. Especially, I thought my good friend PJ Souls did a very good job at narrating this documentary, talking about the history of all the Halloween movies, of how well they did in the box office back then. Next, at number 4 is To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story. Here, this was actually a very good documentary to watch. It was actually a very good one. Sometimes it could be a little emotional because I ended up watching this one for the very first time, and I did get a little emotional where I felt like I was going to have a tear coming out of my eye with the story of what Kane Hodder was talking about, of how the first fire stunt he ended up doing almost nearly took his life and almost ended up killing him, and how he was like in ICU for quite some time. But he's the most recognizable or stuntman of all time because he does stunts in a whole bunch of movies. He does like fire stunts, and he's also known for playing Jason in Friday 13th 7 through 10. So, To Hell and Back, the Kane Hodder story, I definitely highly recommend checking this one out because this is actually a very good documentary to watch. Next, at number 3 is Never Sleep Again, the Elm Street Legacy. This is actually a very good documentary to watch where they have interviews with certain cast and crew members from all the Elm Street movies talking about their or like what it was like over on set of all the Elm Street movies, of how they were trying to get these movies made back then. And So you have like interviews of like Wes Craven, Robert Englund, Heather Langenkamp, Lisa Wilcox, Tuesday Night, everybody from all the Elm Street movies. He's talking about each of their respective films of how it was, and also this one's also narrated by Heather Langenkamp, who talks about how popular each of the Elm Street movies were back in the day and how well they did at the box office. So Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy. Definitely recommend checking out this documentary. Next, at number 2 is Crystal Lake Memories, the complete history of Friday the 13th. Now, this is pretty much the same thing as Never Sleep Again, where they have interviews with certain cast and crew members from various Friday the 13th films, talking about how what it was like on set of making these movies back then. And also, this is narrated by Corey Feldman, who played in Friday the 13th Parts 4 and 5, who ends up talking about how successful the Friday the 13th movies were at the box office and how much they made at that box office. And again, you have interviews with like Sean S. Cunningham, Corey Feldman, Tom Matthews, Kane Hodder, C.J. Graham, him just various actors and actresses talk about different Friday the 13th movies that they were in. So Crystal Lake Memories, the complete history of Friday the 13th, definitely recommend checking this one out. And number 1 for my documentaries is I Am Nancy. Here, this is actually a very fun documentary to watch. As you can tell, this comes in a little flimsy case where you have Heather Langenkamp, who's known for playing Nancy in the Elm Street movies 1, 3, and 7. And it has like a camera, a personal camera, follows her around, going to conventions, meeting fans, hands it all over the world and everything. And trying to figure out why people love Freddy so much, and she goes to these conventions just to keep her character Nancy alive because everyone is like a big fan of Freddy, and she just goes to these conventions just to keep her character alive. But this is actually a very fun documentary to watch. I wish I was in this documentary because I would love to meet Heather Langenkamp, get her autograph, and shake her hand and tell her how much I love her work in all the Elm Street movies. But thanks to my good friend PJ Souls, I do have Heather Langenkamp's autograph that she ended up getting for me, where she put Eric, whatever you do, don't fall asleep. If you haven't seen that autograph picture, go to my Facebook page and you'll see that autograph on my Facebook page. But this is actually a very fun documentary to watch because every time I watch this, again, just like with the Phantasm documentary, it just makes me think back of the ScareCon events I've gone to over the years. So, I Am Nancy. I highly recommend checking out this documentary. Alright, guys, so that's my top 10 Tuesday for my documentaries. What do you guys think? Have you seen any of the documentaries? Do you like watching any of the documentaries? If so, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. If there's any documentaries you think I should check out, please let me know. I know there's a couple documentaries I wish I had in my collection. One of them is You're So Cool, Brewster, the complete history of Fright Night, but I know that one is like out of print and hard to get, I think. And I would love to see that one. And I know there's another documentary that's a work in progress right now, and I'm hoping it'll be out soon. And that's the documentary of Angela, the sleepaway camp documentary. So I'm hoping that that'll be coming out pretty soon. So again, I know that's a work in progress. Alright, guys. So again, that's it for my Top 10 Tuesday. Like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for some more videos. Later.